All right, I want to do a quick video on ChainLink. I do not have a position in ChainLink yet. I am watching it because it's setting up a really long-term pattern that looks incredibly bullish to me on a daily and a weekly time frame. And it's up a lot on this current daily, over 11%. So I won't be buying it today, but I'm looking to see a potential entry. One thing just to note, it looks like even though it's still low volume relative to the rest of this, it's early in the day right now and it's already exceeded, several weeks worth of volume. So it looks like today could end up being the breakout volume day and what it needs to propel it higher, particularly related to this BTC pair, but I'll show you the USD pair too. A couple things just to note about Link is there's a really, really strong community of believers, if you will, the Link Marines, as they say. And, that's a good thing for a coin. They got mad at me for calling it a cult-like project, but, they're true believers. They love the fundamentals, yada, yada. In terms of how it plays out on the chart, what is most impressive to me is that Link has not had this big up, big down market cycle. This is trading. This could be any stock chart, any NASDAQ IPO thing that, listed and did well. And this is relative to Bitcoin, which makes it even more impressive because it means it's been steadily outperforming Bitcoin since it launched and has had these inflection points like September 2018 after a long period of consolidation. A lot of altcoins, that's where they break down and bleed off. That's where this one really went off to the races. It wasn't perfectly clean on these 200-day moving average bounces, but it did hold them, to some degree. And then the break above signals or retests, anything like that, were certainly your signs to get back in the market. So the ideal place to buy would have been around 26K Satoshis, and we're all the way up at 33 or so now. What I'm looking at here more is a breakout long term. What I mentioned on Twitter last night was that this is probably the most bullish BTC relative chart that I've seen since Ethereum. And even Ethereum, back when it did what it did, was more about the USD chart, the big ascending triangle. This also reminds me of BNB relative to BTC, and of note, that one was actually a bit of a fake out before it then finally carried on, but it had this similar, ascending triangle, or maybe cup and handle, which is a continuation pattern, as long as this handle, is 50% or less of the prior move, but the bounce off the 200, all that. This is a long-term consolidation that we shouldn't be fearful of buying, even if it's up already. So if it's at 36, 37, 38K, break out some kind of retest, you would be playing the move up from there. In terms of what the move up would be, you could use something like a fib retracement tool or a fib extension tool. And what you might say is, okay, well, what was the large time frame high and low? Since we didn't make a new high, that's why I'm still going to use this one, even though you could do a minor fib off of this. The 1.618 would take us up to 55,000 Satoshis. So that's kind of a baseline target. One of the ways to look for a place to take profit in a bullish scenario when you're in relative price discovery. The USD chart is also incredibly bullish, and it's already broken out. If you're going to paint some kind of diagonal on it, something like that, and made a higher high right here on this current daily. So basically you could buy a retest of $3 or so, something like that. I wouldn't necessarily on this one wait until it gets all the way up here. $4.76, $4.76 is a huge move. This is already kind of a macro higher high breakout. So I would look at mid time frames in order to determine what my entry would be, but I'd be seeking entry somewhere in here, looking for honestly a measured move off of some prior levels. Doesn't really matter how you draw the bottom side of this. You could draw it, flat, or you could look to make some kind of pennant off of it. I'm not too worried about all that. The big thing here for me is higher high and numbers going up. If you look on the weekly basis, this weekly close is also really interesting. A weekly over $3 is a signal to buy. Maybe any retrace you get on like Sunday or Monday on the new weekly would be a good place to enter. You want to be careful for fake outs, so you got to establish what your stop parameters are going to be. Let me show you the Binance chart. This one had a very similar BTC relative move. That's all new stuff. But what I want to show you is back here. This reminds me a lot of this setup. Here's your first run at it. Here's your handle, if you will, and then your breakout. But notice people took the opportunity to sell off of that move in price discovery, and then it took a while for BNB to do its thing again. Now that was not a great time in the market, mid 2018. So like Link, it was very impressive in a downturn of the market. However, once it kind of hit and let's see what the fib was on this one. Once it, hit what was a logical target, it started to sell off. Looks like this one got above the 1.618, but not by too much. And yeah, that's why to me it's a trade setup. BNB has pretty strong fundamentals too. The next time to buy it was off of a breach of that high, and so on. And now BNB has spent almost a year in a downtrend that it's finally reversing for what it's worth. That's interesting to note as well. And that's why I look at a chart like this and I say, okay, fundamentals aside, community aside, whatever, what's the potential move on something like this? So this is the type of move that I'm looking for in terms of a tradable scenario. This is not a buy and hold forever type of thing, but I think you can get a significant move off of it. If people want to believe and hold some for the long term, that's fine. But for me, I like this as a trade. I'm always a little weary when I'm wary rather, when I'm looking at an altcoin that has never really had a proper dump in distribution against the Bitcoin pair, because just, every altcoin has really had those seasons of life. So I don't want to get too greedy with it. Another thing of note, and people can get upset with me about it, whatever they want. My friend Josh Olszewicz wrote about this one. And, a couple of key things to note, and this is true of every altcoin. Y'all can call it FUD, I don't care. The remaining tokens don't really have a lockup or vesting schedule. The circulating supply is only about 38%. The node operator rewards about 35%, so stuff locked up for people that are running the nodes to operate the blockchain. And then, the team holds a hefty chunk, and they sold some. They sold some when it went up last time. I think it was mid last year. So they saw the high, the team saw the high, and they started selling it. And they were probably the ones that triggered this down move. So if it moves up, I'd be watching those addresses. I'm sure that they're tracked, and people have that in mind. Don't be the person bidding when the team is selling on you. And they have to do that to fund what they do. I get it. Whatever. This could be the most bullish thing ever. It could be the next Ethereum. It could go 10x from here. I'm not worried about all that. I'm looking for a trade. It's a very bullish chart. I'm trying to keep that in mind. I'm looking at it from this perspective of being bullish relative to Bitcoin and seeking what my entry may look like. So that's how I'm looking at it. And like I said, this looks good. I'm interested in the move. I think it can get up here, especially as the broader market also looks bullish. That's all I got. Hope that helps in terms of how to look at these, especially the ones that have already been running. People say buy low, sell high. Well, sometimes you can buy high and sell higher. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's how I'm looking at Link. And let me know if you have any thoughts. Bye-bye.